Today I want to talk about something that a lot of people really don't have a lot of awareness about, and that's body literacy. And that's basically about you tending to your body, having the ability to notice, interpret, figure out what's going on with your body, and how you learn to really respond to the body's signals. So it's kind of like your body all this time has been sending you emails, but your notifications have been off. And I really want people to understand that there is a language and intelligence that the body is speaking to us, but so many times we have been so conditioned to really suppress those feelings, those, sensations in the body, so that we are not connected to what it's saying. We don't have the translation. And so a lot of us are starting to understand that this is a thing, right? This is something that you can really connect to. These feelings that are in your body are going to tell you something. But it's a skill that you develop over time. So I want you to think of it like we're looking at a balance sheet, and within our business, there's ins and there's outs. And if our outs are going out more than our ins are coming in, then there is a disbalance that's happening. And so we really have to pay attention to how do we learn the body's intelligence, the transcription, the translation of what our body's trying to tell us when we are in that deficit, when the body feels disconnected from the things that we're trying to achieve and the things that are coming on our plate and we're saying yes to, when the body is telling us no. And so there's a sign or a term that's really called interoception, and that's the science behind understanding how we act in our body, the internal feeling, and how to pay attention to that internal state. And so I want you to think about yourself, right? How many times have we become disconnected from ourselves? Especially as high achieving women, we have literally spent a lifetime ignoring the feelings, like our hunger sensations, or when we're fatigued, or when we're uncomfortable about deadlines and situations and all those things, because we have this belief system that understands that if we hustle and we do all the things, that we'll get the stuff done more efficiently. So we start to outsource our feelings. We start to get accolades from things outside of us versus inside of us. And it really creates this disconnect between our real inner state and our external world. And so overriding all of these things over the years helps our body understand that we cannot be worthy of trusting itself. So we don't start to pay attention to those things because we've really and truly, made everything outside of us louder and more worth tending to. And so over time, these signals become louder because our body wants to be heard. And so I always say to my clients, the body is talking to you. And the more that you disobey or disconnect or, turn down that volume, the more the body is going to try and get our attention. And I really and truly believe that it talks to us until it makes us stop in our tracks. So you guys have heard so many guests in the past that have talked about there's been many warning signs that they've had, but they haven't paid attention to them, or they just say, oh, it was a one-time thing, or they don't really, believe that it is something because they have to push through, right? They have to push through all those things. So we tend to experience these things like anxiety, hormonal disruption, gut issues, fatigue that comes out of nowhere, and autoimmune flare-ups because we are starting to ignore the body signals. So, I think about one of my clients that I had, and she was on as a guest, and one of the things that she said, is she had the brain fog, she had the fatigue and all the things and the anxiety, and was just, kind of pushing it off and kept going and neglecting herself. And what ended up happening over time was that she realized that she was diabetic and she went into a diabetic coma. And, this is all about, neglecting self for so long and realizing that if we really and truly start to pay attention to the signals ahead of time, that we won't end up in these states of disease that many of us end up in. And so a lot of women, we experience all these signals, but we don't pay attention to them. So the fatigue is one. And it's not a regular fatigue where you can go to sleep and it ends up going away, but it's that fatigue where you're not tired, but you are literally like depleted every time, no matter how much sleep you get. And this is usually often the first sign of dysregulation that we see with adrenals or as well as the thyroid imbalance. But a lot of people see it as, I'm just busy. This is really a key understanding right here of the body is starting to talk to us, and what are we doing to pay attention to it? The second signal is really about digestive issues. Now, many high achieving women have digestive issues with bloating, constipation, feeling like they have to go to the bathroom with urgency. And this is not something that is normal, but yet we think everyone has it. When our gut health is off, it does really impact our hormones as well. And that really does throw off our nervous system. So if we want to be balanced and regulated, we really have to pay attention to our gut health as well. Another thing is mood shifts that sort of seem out of character. So you're snapping at family members, you might be really irritable, you might have this, you're very emotional, or you're very numb, right? These are all things that we basically realize that we are often dismissing ourselves, or we are medicating ourselves without any, understanding of what the root cause is, right? So we really want to pay attention to those things. Sleep disruption, like you're waking up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, a lot of my clients know that this has an underlying issue too. When we look at traditional Chinese medicine and we're looking at the liver, this is a really interesting point about, how are we, moving things out, eliminating things from our life? Are we detoxifying ourselves? Are we giving ourselves the space to really move through things? And a lot of times we're not. And so when we're up at those times, you're noticing that your mind is racing, you feel like your cortisol levels start to increase, and it's really all about your sleep as well. So this is another important thing. Next thing is the body is saying no when you're mid doing something. So tight shoulders, jaw clenching, during work, you really start to pay attention to what this real-time feedback is that we're experiencing. And so these are not things that are character flaws or anything like that, but it's your body's attempt to really start to talk to you. And this is where people start to really, miss the mark, is that the body is giving us signals. It's not normal for us to clench our teeth. It's not normal to have a tight neck. It's not normal to hold all your tension here. It's not normal to have tension headaches. It's not normal to be irritable. But what is happening underneath it? These are when we got to start to ask ourselves different questions, like, what am I trying to process here? What am I suppressing? What am I not paying attention to? Because the more that we don't pay attention to these things, the more that they start showing up in other ways, right? In disease. And we really don't want that. And so we really want to learn to start to self-manage ourselves and be introspective, right? Asking ourselves, what are we noticing in our body? Before you're going into a meeting, and if you're feeling very anxious, like, what are the sensations that you're feeling? I think about somebody that I know very close to me, and when they're anxious, they feel like they have to go to the bathroom all the time. It's that nervous stomach, right? What is it that you can't stomach that you're dealing with here? Right? Or maybe you're going into a meeting and you have tension in the neck. Like, what can you not hold on your shoulders anymore? These are really important things to start asking yourself. What am I noticing in my body? How is it showing up in my body? When things are amazing, what is the information that your body is giving you? Do you feel like warmth in your chest? Do you feel like very light on your feet? The body is giving you signals. They're giving you signals to when something is a yes and when something is a no. But if we don't pay attention to it and we don't go inward and we don't make the time for it, then we don't have that body intelligence. And so I want you to really start to think about all of the things. Self-management is really important, right? Managing yourself throughout the day is really going to help you give back to your work life, to your family life, to the income that you bring in, because you're starting to pay attention to what are the feelings and emotions that are becoming that magnetic piece towards what I'm manifesting into my life, whether it be physically, externally, or internally, right? Paying attention to what is actually underlying the root feeling underneath. Maybe it's covering up feelings of low self-worth and you feel like you have to, receive the accolades to get it. Or maybe you don't feel seen in your relationship, so you do things in order to be seen. What is the underlying feeling? And so these are the types of things that I want you to kind of think about when you're, working with people or a therapist or practitioners, is how to get to that underlying root, how to pay attention to getting in connection with your body and learning how to be body illiterate. This is really going to help you move the dial in what's happening in your life, how it's showing up in your business, how you can come into contact with who you really are, what your body is saying to you, and so that you're not being externally driven by the things outside of you, but you're starting to pay attention to that body intelligence. And once you tap into that, everything becomes possible because you're giving permission to your body to lead the way. God, universe, or just your intuition, the body knows what is meant for you. But if we don't pay attention to it, how can we, give it the space that it needs to? What's going to end up happening is if we don't get connected to ourselves, it's going to, that emotional energy is going to go somewhere. And when we don't pay attention to the emotions, we don't pay attention to the cues, it ends up in a diseased body. So a body in dis-ease. So I hope this episode piqued some curiosity in you, and understand that the more that you come inwards into yourself and pay attention to the sensations and the feelings that are in emotions that are erupting within your world, the more in tune you can be with making regulated decisions in your business from a place of clarity, from a place of, abundance, from a place of growth versus scarcity and fear. So if you like this episode and want more, leave me a comment, because I'd love to share a little bit more of how you can get more in touch with yourself